This is CBC Here and Now.
As of tomorrow, the province's current 4 health authorities are integrated into one.
There are inefficiencies by having 4 health authorities.
Coming up on Here and Now.
It's been 6 weeks since Gladney's school buses were taken off the roads, and the owner says he still doesn't know why. I'm Peter Cowan. Hear how the school board responds coming up.
We can take $100,000 and we can multiply that probably tenfold, if not more.
The nationwide challenge searching to find Canada's most invested community-run ski hill.
At the hill, you can just feel the excitement.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. There are a number of changes coming into effect for Newfoundland and Labrador starting tomorrow, including a change to the province's health authorities. The 4 separate health authorities will officially be integrated into one single entity for the whole province on April 1st. Health critics are questioning what it will mean for patients in rural and remote areas. Here and Now's Mark Quinn reports.
It was first recommended by the Economic Recovery Team led by Moya Green. The province's economic outlook has changed, but the health minister says it's still a good idea.
It is, and the Health Accord lays out a 10-year plan as well on transforming health and modernising healthcare. There are inefficiencies in healthcare. I think that's recognised. We have the largest spend in the country per capita on healthcare and some of the worst outcomes.
Osborne says the way patient information is shared between the current health authorities is one example of inefficiency. He says that within 18 months to 2 years, that will change.
We have patients, if they are transferred from one area of the province to the tertiary care in St. John's, that their file either has to be printed off and faxed in or sent in with the patient. That is really antiquated. The new health authority, as one health authority with a health information system, will give every health professional in the province access to a patient's file.
The official opposition wants to know what moving to one health authority will mean for patient care in rural and remote parts of the province.
How will this better address the regional disparities for those up in Labrador? I don't know how that's going to roll out. We've had separate regional authorities. Now we're going to have one with separate regional advisory committees. So it's left to be said, how does that roll out and make it better for the other regions in the province?
The single health authority becomes official tomorrow, but Osborne says there will be an official launch next week. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, another change coming tomorrow is that some workers will get a pay raise. The minimum wage in Newfoundland and Labrador will increase by 80 cents to $14.50 an hour, and in 6 months, another raise, pushing the lowest amount an employer can pay to $15 an hour. And there is yet another change coming into effect in the province. Just have a look.
Hey! Did you know now in Newfoundland and Labrador you have to type 709 in order to call anyone in the province? We asked people in the streets how they feel about it. Come with me. Instead of just having to dial 7 numbers, you have to dial all 10 digits of a number, so 709 and then the rest of the number. How do you feel about that?
I always did put it on my phone anyway, so it makes no difference to me.
It doesn't really bother me in a sense because quite often I just go on my cell phone, they're already in there and I just click on dial.
If you're in an emergency and you needed to call for help, how many numbers do you think you would know off by heart?
In an emergency, I would expect to just dial 911.
Probably like 4.
Who are those 4?
My mom, my dad, my sister, and my nan.
2, my husband's and mine, and my daughter's.
How many numbers do you think you know?
Maybe 3 or 4. Oh, probably not that many. Not if you had to put in all 10 numbers.
Do you remember your first number?
Hell no. I'm lucky I remember where I live, my dear.
Good evening. I'm Heather Gillis in for Ashley Brawweiler. And speaking of digits, the number of digits that we're going to have in the forecast tomorrow, they'll probably all be in the single digits, except for the wind chill early in the morning. It will be fairly chilly when you wake up for some people. But talking about tonight now, we do have a lot of weather on the way. It'll be cloudy for most parts of the province tonight. A chance of flurries for the west coast and the northern peninsula parts of Labrador as well. Sunny for many parts of the island tomorrow, especially on the east coast, but we'll pick up some cloud down on the south coast, and then the weather maker moves in the evening. What we'll see is a shot of snow across much of the province that will transition over to rain. So let's take a look at all the watches and warnings that are in effect. There is a lot to talk about here tonight. We're going to have a rainfall warning in effect for the southern Avalon, blowing snow warning down here for the south and southwest coasts, plus a wreck house wind warning, a special weather statement bringing snow to parts of the northern peninsula into the west coast. This will also bring snow into the Happy Valley Goose Bay area, to parts of the coast, blowing snow actually down here as well, Red Bay to Lanza-Clare, and up along the coast here in Labrador. A winter storm watch is in effect. Lots to talk about. We'll break it down later in the show.
Thanks, Heather. Well, it's been 6 weeks since the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District took Gladney's school buses off the road. Well, tonight, Josh Gladney says he still doesn't know why his contract is suspended. Here Now's Peter Cowan has the details.
Josh Gladney says he first heard about his buses being off the road from the media, and when he eventually got an email from the school board, there wasn't much clarity.
Just a bunch of stuff saying that they lost confidence in me, and you know, they were doing an investigation, and it was really vague, and it didn't make a lot of sense. And I was in shock at the time.
More than 6 weeks later, he insists he still doesn't know what concerns the school board has with his bus service. One of his buses was involved in a fatal accident just before that email. The bus was off duty at the time and there were no students on board. Gladney says that incident wasn't raised with him. He says his buses and drivers are still picking up kids every day. They're just doing it for other companies.
And they came to the compromise on their end that they would like to have 45 of my buses and drivers and be ran under another company, like in a supervisory role, I guess, of the operation, which I agreed to, as to make sure there was no interruption in service for the children and the parents who already had gone through 5 days of no busing in the coldest week of the year.
The school board wouldn't get into specifics with us either, but in an interview, Terry Hall says there's been plenty of back and forth with Gladney's lawyers reviewing documents.
So this has been a culmination of a number of issues we've had with respect to the obligations under the contract that we have with this particular provider, you know, since October, and meeting those obligations with respect to documentation, service provision, everything. It's an entire operational review, not just specific to a fleet or drivers or anything like that.
Very hard, because
meanwhile, Gladney says it's hard being in limbo.
You don't know what to do moving forward, and you know, I've got another small fleet of buses purchased that I committed to buy before this happened, and some other deals that I've made that may or may not happen now. So you're making me look bad to suppliers and vendors and that kind of thing. So that's been hard.
The school board won't say how long it'll take to resolve the issues, only that it'll do whatever is safest for students. Peter Cowan, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a tweet has cost a member of Memorial University's Board of Regents her position. The university says a recent post by Carrie Claire Neal broke the board's code of conduct. After the March 16th killing of 2 Edmonton police officers, the RNC posted condolences on social media, and in response, Neal tweeted, "F the police." Memorial says board members are expected to act with integrity and that she's suspended for the rest of her term. La Bonavista Bay family wants the slaughter of their domestic birds to end. 6 ducks were killed earlier this month on their property in Portland, presumably by minks. Here Now's Troy Turner has the details.
The pen built for the Pike family's ducks is empty now. Despite the reinforcement, it wasn't secure enough to prevent minks from killing the pets. It's extra hard for the family. The ducks were part of a wish granted to their late son.
He took the gun right at me, took the wind right at me, and I was so upset. This was
Nicholas's birds, and the particular one that he had in his arms, I have a picture of the bird in his arms, to just be slaughtered for the second time because he had his goose slaughtered that he used to carry around with in his wheelchair by mink.
Nicholas was granted the animals and a barn by Children's Wish Foundation in 2010. He died in 2017.
That's all was left to him, and for me to give away his animals or make away with them, I just wouldn't be able to do it. I'm carrying this out now for him. Those animals are very, very special.
The Pikes have video of the mink, but have been unable to trap it.
Minks have been a problem in this area for quite some time because there were birds on this property for 50 years and there was never slaughters and huge slaughters. And this is the third time we've had a slaughter.
There's a mink farm in nearby Lethbridge, but the Provincial Wildlife Department said there haven't been any mink on site since last year. No one would do an interview, but in a statement it said there were no reports of mink escapes from the farm last summer, and the farm maintains a perimeter fence, which is a requirement.
My biggest thing, I want to go off the place here. I got 3 small dogs, and I just don't trust a mink around any kind of animal. And I don't want to lose any rabbits or any of the chickens, or I want the mink gone.
In addition to trying to trap the minks that are responsible for destroying their animals, the Pikes say they'll continue to make representation to the Wildlife Department with the hopes that this issue will be resolved soon. Troy Turner, CBC News, Portland.
Well, a woman is dead and a man is facing criminal charges following a car crash on the West Coast early this morning. It happened in Halfway Point. The RCMP says an officer had to swerve to avoid a vehicle that was driving down the wrong lane. Police say the vehicle sped past and the officer turned on their emergency lights but didn't chase the vehicle. Minutes later, the car crashed, killing a 38-year-old woman from Corner Brook. The male driver was on probation and prohibited from driving. He faces several charges, including flight from police and dangerous driving causing death. Now, because a police car was on the scene, the agency that investigates serious incidents involving police has been called in to investigate. And still with crime, a pedestrian was injured in a hit and run in Carbonear on Wednesday evening. Police say it happened near Tim Hortons on Columbus Drive around 8:30. A black Honda Civic was leaving the parking lot and struck a person who was crossing the road. The RCMP says the driver didn't stop and was seen turning left onto Powell Drive. The pedestrian was taken to hospital for non-life-threatening injuries, and the investigation is ongoing. An RNC officer convicted of assaulting her former intimate partner is appealing and has been released from custody. Noelle Late was sentenced on Monday. Judge Wayne Gorman handed down a sentence of 4 months in jail and a year of probation. Late is now appealing both her conviction and the sentence. The notice of appeal claims Judge Gorman made assumptions and scrutinized evidence from Late and the victim differently. The notice also claims the sentence is unfit and Gorman mischaracterized the gravity of the offenses. Late has been released on conditions pending the appeal. Well, White Hills in Clarenville is just hours away from learning if it's won $100,000 in the Top Peak Nationwide contest. Here and Now's Jeremy Eaton has been on the hills today and has this report.
For months, White Hills here in Clarenville has been taking part in the Top Peak contest. Now, that's a nationwide challenge searching to find Canada's most invested community-run ski hill, and that's exactly what White Hills is. Run by a volunteer board of directors, it's been serving skiers and snowboarders since 1989. But for the past few months, because of this challenge, it's brought the entire community together.
To me, it's electric. I mean, I've been involved in this community now, as you've stated, for a long time, and this particular activity has been purely electric. Folks who contact me who want to say, like the other one the other day was Qatar. Why can't we vote? And I said, well, you're in Qatar, but we're Newfoundlanders. Why can't we vote? So yeah, the excitement, it's electrical. It's just terribly, terribly passionate about what's going to happen here.
The winner of this contest brings home a top prize of $100,000, money that the Hill says it could desperately use to make some much needed upgrades. Here's what they would plan to do with the money.
The very big thing is our visitor experience. And you know, when you come out the highway and you're right up on the sign before you realize. So it's making sure people know where to come. When they get up to the location, where do they go? So it's just that signage. We want to make sure that people are very aware.
Clarenville is in the top 3, going up against a ski resort in Timmins, Ontario, and Apex, British Columbia. Now, the winner of this contest will be announced tomorrow night on a special CBC Presents Sports presentation at about 7:15 local time, meaning they're going to have to wait a few more hours to learn if they are Canada's most invested community ski club, and more importantly, if they win $100,000. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, Clarenville.
Fingers crossed for sure. Well, a Corner Brook author has won this year's BMO Winter Set Award and will receive a prize of $12,500. Shelley Kwaja won for her debut novel, The Raw Light of Morning. The award celebrates literature from Newfoundland and Labrador. The other finalists were author Lisa Moore and playwright Megan Greeley. Well, the Iceberg Alley Performance Tent has unveiled its lineup for this year's festival. The festival in the tent on Kitty Vitty Lake will have a range of different musical acts this year. There will be everything from rock and pop to hair metal and disco. Arkells will make a return to the tent, as well as bands Shiny Canuck, Sugar Ray, Quiet Riot, and Walk Off the Earth. The shows run from June 14th to the 24th, and tickets go on sale next Friday morning. Well, good news for nature lovers, the eagles have landed. Yes, the 2 eagles are back in Cuckold's Cove. Coming up, we'll speak with photographer Alex Swee, who's been capturing photos of these majestic creatures for the past decade.
And in the weather, we told you about all these watches and warnings. We'll take a look at how they're going to shape up Saturday night and into early Sunday morning. That's ahead.
The downside of the tourism boom, an influx of short-term rentals are being blamed for a housing shortage.
I want to be here and I want to work here, but it's really discouraging when you have so many obstacles facing you that are like preventing you from doing so.
But a housing advocate says the issue isn't that simple. Coming up Monday on Here and Now.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Bonus prize deadline is midnight, Thursday, April 6th. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Well, happy Friday to you and to you. It was a
Happy
glorious
Friday.
day in St. John's with the sunshine.
Another nice day. Yesterday was like just so wonderful in the afternoon, and it really brightened up again this afternoon. And we had some really nice temperatures through central Newfoundland, and 7 degrees. Let's take a look. Great. So we've got 7 in Badger. Yesterday we had that in the Terra Nova area, but today there we had 5, and 5 in Marystown as well, 6 in Burgeo and Stephenville. Cooler along the north coast of the island, of course, and up into Labrador. Only sitting at -1 in St. John's today, but it certainly didn't feel like it, again, because the sun was shining. When we factor in the wind chill, feeling like -7 in St. John's, cooler along the coast with wind chills. Certainly right now between -7 and -5, -10 for the coast of Labrador. But that's not what we want to talk about. We want to talk about all of those watches and warnings that are in effect for later in the weekend. But first, tonight, we're going to see some increase in cloud as we head till midnight and in the overnight hours, bringing us that to tonight. So there we go. Cloudy skies pretty well for most parts of the province, -7 in St. John's and in Gander, where we should see a few flurries tonight, a 40% chance of flurries there. Clouds for the south coast and into the west coast, where we should pick up a few flurries, a 40% chance in Corner Brook area there as well. Clouds up into St. Anthony and the Straits and Cartwright. But when we get into Labrador and Happy Valley Goose Bay and in Nain and Lab West, we should see some flurries here as well. -21 is what it's going to be in Labrador West tonight. So it is going to be a chilly night in that part of the province. As we head into the overnight, Saturday morning, we'll have a lot of this cloud start to burn off through the day. So we're going to have a nice day, but this is the system that is going to be the weather maker. Let's look at the watches and warnings and break them down a little bit. So what we're going to see here, we're going to start in Labrador. So we've got a winter storm watch in effect for coastal Labrador, and this is going to be prolonged snowfall starting Sunday for the coast. We could see 30 to 60 centimeters, and the snow is probably not going to stop until Tuesday evening. When we get into central Labrador, Happy Valley Goose Bay and Cartwright, below Rigolette, Black Tickle area, we'll see about 30 centimeters of snow, gusts to 70 compared to further up on the coast where you could see gusts up to 100. So it's not going to be, a great day from Sunday, but your snow should be ending into Monday. We're going to get some snow down on the eastern part of the northern peninsula, the Bay Verte area, into Humber Valley, Deer Lake, and what you'll see there is up to 15 centimeters of snow, 10 to 15 for you folks, bit of wind in there, and we'll see 5 to 10 down on the south and southwest coast. But what we'll have there is a wreck house wind warning in effect, and with those winds, what we'll see is this blowing snow advisory that we have in effect for the southwest coast. Also a blowing snow advisory for Red Bay to Lanse-Claire. Working our way down onto the Avalon now, what we will see here is 25 to 40 millimeters of rain for the southern Avalon. So we're going to get that shot of snow right across the island. And then what we'll see is frozen ground in some places that can't really accept the water, so you could have some pooling or some localized flooding. And with this system, we could see winds gusting to 80 as well, possibly up to 100 in some spots on the island as this system moves by and dumps some snow and some rain. So taking a look at tomorrow, temperatures should be pretty good tomorrow, between 4 or 5 degrees on the Avalon with some sun in our forecast for Saturday. Looking like a pretty good day. For Bonavista, 3 degrees and sun. And here along the south coast, we will see sun, 3, as warm as 5 in Grand Falls, Windsor. We're picking up a little bit of cloud now the further west we go. So we'll get a mix of sun and cloud here on the west coast. Cloudy day in Burgeo, some clouds in Stephenville as well, and a little bit more cloud as we go up the northern peninsula with some flurries possible in Grosse Morne and Port au Choix and St. Anthony. Those flurries we'll see possibly in the afternoon. Heading up to Labrador now, we'll see some flurries along the coast in Makkovik, cloudy day in Nain. Not too bad for the rest of Labrador. Now we'll have your long-term look ahead a little later in the show.
Thanks, Heather. Well, some good news for bird watchers and nature lovers. The eagles are back in Cuckold's Cove. For over a decade, a pair of eagles have nested on the popular St. John's Lookout, but last year it appeared the nest was abandoned. For photographer Alex Swee, last year's disappointment made it all the more exciting to see the eagles' surprise return this week. I spoke with him about it this afternoon.
We walk the trail all the time, and so around this time we know if the nest is there, eagles may come back. So we check on the 28th and the nest looked very intact, and then lo and behold, we saw 2 eagles. And they were one on the nest, the other one was busy doing something, and definitely they were not resting on the nest, so I know there was no egg. And they were flying around and they were happily fortifying the nest. So I knew it's good news, because last year the nest was abandoned. Because same time I checked, 1 eagle was there last year, but in the first week in April the nest was abandoned. We were all set, and we realized the eagles flew over to the other side of the cliff, and probably they had a nest there. But glad to see them back.
Yes, for sure. And you noticed that a couple of days later there is another piece of good news, right?
Yes, I could actually got the egg in my photograph, so I was so happy. 1 single egg and 1 parent is there, and then I waited and waited until they changed guards, because they took time to incubate. The other one will fly away to get food or whatever, while the other one got the egg.
How long have you been photographing these eagles?
This will be my 11th year. Last year was sad because they abandoned the nest, and this year it's back, and they always start looking after the nest around mid-March, and by end of March they will lay their egg, and hopefully in the first week of May we'll see eaglets.
What keeps bringing you back to this nest and to taking photos of these eagles?
I like taking photos and I love hiking, so this is in my neck of the woods, so I hike all the time, and when I got time we hike up from my house to Signal Hill and then back, and every time we pass by the trail along the nest, we'll have a peek and see how the nest is doing. If it's something happening, we'll just rest, take a break, and enjoy the scenery, and hopefully take a few good pictures.
It's something that really does capture people's attention. People going up to visit the nest, they want to know what's happening with the eagles. What is it about these beautiful creatures that attracts people, do you think?
Well, eagle itself is very majestic, first of all, and secondly, the location is perfect for bird watchers or photographers. It's about 30 meters away at least, maybe 50, so there's no interference from humans, no interference from wild animals. That is a safe spot. If the nest is sturdy, I'm sure eagles will come back year after year.
So what's your routine with this now? Like, how often will you come up and have a look in there and take some photos of the eagles?
From mid-March onwards, I always come up here every second day to check on the nest. And right now the trail is still quite slippery and some ice on the steps, so make sure you have the proper foot gear before you go on these trails, because you don't want to slip and fall on a hill.
And you post these photos too, so if someone can't physically get up here and see the nest themselves, they can always go online and look at your pics.
Yes. I especially, there's a page called the Newfoundland Bird Watching Group. They do fantastic photos, and every bird's in the area, they will post it and for everyone to share and enjoy. Yeah.
You're such a passionate photographer. Can you describe how you felt when you saw the eagles there this year, especially considering last year was a bit of a disappointing year?
Yeah, this is good news. Anything, if you see something in nature, especially such a good area that you can watch eagles, this is so nice. Some fresh things happening, some positive things happening, and also you can see the birth of an eaglet. That's very exciting to see something birth coming up.
Such a wonderfully positive thing to talk about on a sunny Friday. Alex Swee, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, staying with the nature theme, just down the trail from the eagles, there's another animal that's been getting lots of attention. This beautiful seal has been hanging out in Kitty Vitty Village in the area since yesterday, just soaking up the sun. Lots of pictures being taken as well. Returning now to yesterday's scathing report from the Mass Casualty Commission in Nova Scotia. After 7 months of witness testimony into Canada's deadliest mass shooting, commissioners took aim at the RCMP and what they're calling an epidemic of domestic violence. As the CBC's Gareth Hampshire explains, the report is clear the gunman's common law partner is also a victim, but she wasn't treated that way.
Public health emergency is how the Mass Casualty Commission characterizes gender-based intimate partner and family violence. Likening it to the COVID-19 pandemic, the inquiry members say a wide-ranging reaction is needed from everyone.
When we talk about violence prevention, we also talk about it in terms of a public health approach. And we have to address the root causes of violence.
The Commission thinks a lot can be learned from the treatment of Lisa Banfield, the gunman's partner. Their findings are that she suffered physical violence and threats, as well as emotional and many other kinds of abuse, but that following the shootings, she was actually re-victimized. The Commission members note Lisa Banfield was the first one to be attacked, but was not treated as a survivor by the RCMP in the months that followed, eventually being charged for providing ammunition to the gunman.
It validates her experience and her feelings, which have been challenged and brought into question significantly the last 3 years.
During testimony to the inquiry, Banfield talked about the fear she lived with in a relationship that lasted over 19 years.
He put the gun to my head to scare me and said that he could blow off my head.
The charges she faced have been resolved after being moved to a restorative justice process, but the report says the RCMP's treatment of her could make it less likely for women who are survivors of gender-based violence to get help from the police. However, her lawyer today says the Commission's report provides hope.
Victims of domestic violence and gender-based violence are given a voice like never before. Their plight illustrated in this report with such clarity.
In their recommendations, the Commission members are calling for all levels of government to declare gender-based, intimate partner and family violence as an epidemic. And they don't stop there, making the same call to just about every organization. There is also a powerful plea to men to take action themselves.
Women have been carrying, through community-based organizations, the burden of protecting women almost exclusively for far too long. It's time for men to step up.
And to handle the scale of the problem, the report says there should be epidemic-level funding for prevention and intervention programs. Services, it says, have been underfunded for years to the point women's lives are endangered. A new measure the inquiry is now calling for is for the federal government to establish an independent gender-based violence commissioner with a responsibility to make annual reports to Parliament. The mandate could also include working with women who are survivors as another way to provide a national approach to the issue. Gareth Hampshire, CBC News, Halifax.
And as you just heard, the report found that the RCMP re-victimized Lisa Banfield, the gunman's partner, and says other victims of gender-based violence are now less likely to go to police for help. Nova Scotia's RCMP commissioner has this to say in response.
So when I started in New Minas 35 years ago, it was a foreign concept to police. So we have done significant efforts in which to train our investigators on the use of trauma-informed approach. I do recognize that Lisa Banfield was the first victim in this tragedy. I am limited in what I can say due to litigation, but I do want to reassure all victims and all survivors that the police are willing to listen, willing to work with them. We're willing to work with advocates, as we have done on reviewing our sexual assault files, where we have advocates come into our building and review our files and suggest additional training and investigative steps.
Ottawa has approved an agreement that will allow the merger of telecom giants Rogers and Shaw. The deal, valued at more than $20 billion, will see Shaw's wireless business Freedom Mobile sold to Quebec-based Videotron and comes with more than 20 government-imposed conditions.
I have secured a non-precedented and legally enforceable set of commitments from both Rogers and Videotron. And after imposing strict conditions, the licenses from Freedom Mobile will be transferred to Videotron.
Rogers will take over Shaw's media and cable assets, most of which are in Western Canada. Rogers will be required to create 3,000 jobs in the West. It will also have to spend billions to expand its broadband and wireless networks and offer new, lower-cost plans to consumers for both services. Videotron will be required to become a national carrier and offer plans that are at least 20% cheaper than competitors. Both firms could face significant fines if they fail to comply. Well, we have some breaking news to share with you. Someone who is essential in bringing Here and Now to you each and every night is leaving us after an impressive career. I'm talking about our beloved director, Gary, who's in our control room right now. Now, Gary, you may have thought that this next item is about the Toronto Zoo because that's what we called it in the lineup. But surprise, this story is our tribute to you. So Gary, if you don't mind, just go ahead and click play.
It's a big day for us here at CBCNL. After an incredible 46 years in television, a critical member of our Here and Now family, Switcher director Gary Locke, is retiring. Gary has seen a lot in his 30 years with CBC.
Cucumber.
Fresh off the vine.
Organizers are frantically putting in place the final touches. More than 3,000 chairs will set the scene for the Matthews arrival, the Queen's visit.
His steady hands have helped capture some of the biggest moments in our province's history.
Television crews still have work to do, and there's a backup plan if the weather isn't quite right.
Gary, from all of us here at CBC Newfoundland and Labrador, thank you for your decades of hard work, for your kindness, your mentorship. We couldn't have done it without you.
This afternoon, thousands of public employees demonstrated in support of the strikers, vowing that this issue is not going to go away.
We'll miss you, Gary, and wish you the very best in your retirement.
Oh my goodness, how you doing, Gary? You okay in there?
He was okay.
He was okay. And for those of you at home, Gary is that calm voice in our ears, guiding me, Ashley, Heather, and all of the reporters, you know, guiding us down from the commercials, counting us down and telling us, you know, to move a little to the left or to fix our microphones or to change our batteries, and also to give us a pat on the back after a job well done. So this is Gary's last night as Switcher director with Here and Now before beginning his retirement. So we wish you all the best, Gary.
We love you. You're a gem.
For sure. And please, everyone at home, just bear with us another moment. As if saying goodbye to one colleague wasn't hard enough. Our beloved senior producer, Rod Etheridge, is also retiring today with more than 30 years of journalism under his belt. In recent years, Rod has helped write and produce some of our most powerful stories on TV and radio while shepherding and mentoring along the next generation of journalists. He's also an accomplished author. But before all of that, Rod was a reporter. So we dipped into our archives to bring you this look back at his career in television.
Now, as of about an hour ago, traffic was quite backed up as officials planned to bring the transport truck back onto the road.
It happened at this busy intersection. The area was cordoned off while police officers lifted blood samples from the pavement in front of this bar. The answer is inside these documents obtained by Here and Now under Access to Information laws. They say Jennifer Guy was given a $60,000 payout when she was terminated in July.
Rod showed that the government was pressuring Eastern Health to release information before it was ready to.
These expense breakdowns posted online by the House of Assembly show that Paul Oram billed government thousands of dollars every month for the use of his BlackBerry.
We put reporters in places right across the province, not just the big centres like St. John's, but also in isolated areas.
What did we lose that day, July 1st, 1916? I always say to people, how many Joey Smallwoods? How many business people, how many community leaders, how many Mark Critches and Alan Hockos did we lose in that 1.5 hour period that changed our destiny in what was the country of Newfoundland at the time? For Here and Now, I'm Rod Etheridge in St. John's. Rod Etheridge, CBC News, St. John's.
And we have one more retirement to tell you about. The last one, we promise. We're wishing senior broadcast tech Brian Galton the very best in his retirement. Brian has been with us for an incredible 34 years, working primarily in radio, but also supporting TV for more than a decade. Brian is the calm, low-key voice on the other end of the phone for all CBCNL locations. So thank you so much for everything, Brian, and enjoy your retirement. An update now on that Catch the Ace game we told you about last night. That's been happening in Hagersville, Ontario. A man from that province took home more than $2 million last night after picking the coveted Ace of Spades.
Well, it is the Ace of Spades!
Well, the winner actually wasn't at the event to celebrate. He lives about 20 kilometers away. Thousands of tickets were sold for the charity raffle held by the local Lions Club. After 45 weeks of draws, they've raised about $3 million for 2 local charities. Let's find out who's celebrating. Congratulations to Jack and Eileen Fudge from Lewisport, who are celebrating their 70th anniversary. Fred and Nita Pond from Durrell are marking 56 years of marriage tomorrow. Happy 53rd anniversary to Lewis and Kathleen McNeil of Torbay. Wishing John and Ruby McGonigal a happy 55th anniversary. Happy 56th anniversary to Fraser and Betty Moss of Lethbridge. Happy 56th anniversary to Marie and Gerard Walsh in St. John's. Congratulations to Warren and Rhoda Blanchard of McIvers, who are marking their 56th anniversary today. Congratulations to Calvin and Norma Pilgrim of Bay Roberts. They've been married for 60 years. Carol Ann and Kevin Travers from Buckins are celebrating their 50th anniversary today. Happy 50th anniversary today as well to Vera and Ivan Jones of Herring Neck. It's a 64th anniversary for John and Phoebe Perrell in St. John's. Cecil and Victoria Curtis of Hare Bay are celebrating their 55th wedding anniversary. Wishing Bill and Elsie Gilbert of North Harbour, Placentia Bay a happy 59th anniversary tomorrow. Happy 69th anniversary to Peter and Jenny Burry of St. John's. Now to some birthdays. Happy 92nd birthday today to William Tucker of St. Philip's. Birthday greetings going out to Rita Barber of Gander, who turns 93 on Sunday. Happy birthday to Donald Burton of Fortune, who celebrated 97 years on Tuesday. Wishing Ursula Chambers of Blue Cove a happy 97th birthday yesterday. Happy birthday to Mary Sims of Hermitage, who's turning 90. Happy 90th birthday also to Michael Dillon in St. John's. Happy 95th birthday to Genevieve Meehan in St. John's as well. Birthday greetings going out to Annie Delaney, who just turned 90. Wishing Mary Clark a happy 90th birthday today. She lives in her own home in Charlottetown. Fred Piercy of Conception Bay South is turning 90 tomorrow. Happy birthday. And let's end on a big one. Happy birthday to Rita O'Brien of Cape Royal, who's celebrating her 103rd birthday. Happy birthday. Another fine crowd. Congratulations once again. So Heather and I are still trying to get ourselves back together after talking about all the retirements that are happening today here at CBC. So rather than the waterworks, let's talk about what's happening in the weather, the long-term forecast.
The water that's going to fall from the sky. Let's take a look at the future tracker. This is what's going to sweep right across the island around Sunday at 1 o'clock in the morning overnight. We'll all be seeing something pretty well by then. And then the Southern Avalon will be seeing a fair bit of water. Speaking of water, you can see it there in yellow right here on your screen right now. Taking a look now at Sunday, a closer look at Sunday, you can see again that system sweeping across, bringing snow, a mix, and then some rain to the island, snow all up in Labrador. Here's what it's going to look like in the daytime on Sunday. It is going to be fairly warm for the island with temperatures 6 in St. John's, 8 in Gander, and even 10 possibly in Grand Falls, Windsor on Sunday. And we'll have some showers, so it'll be warm, it'll be windy. And we'll have showers for much of the island, like in St. John's, and down on the Southern Avalon and in Marystown on the Burin Peninsula, it'll be a little bit of heavier precipitation, rain, but once we get up into Gander area, you could have a mix of flurries or some snow, depending for you folks, and then showers for the west coast, 5 in Corner Brook, 3 on the southwest coast in Port aux Basques. But as we head up the northern peninsula, we will see some flurries in the St. Anthony area and throughout the Straits. And then when we get up into Labrador here along the coast, what we will see is some snow and some blowing snow for this region, as this system really it seems like it's going to hammer the coast with 30 to 60 possible from Sunday in through Tuesday for the coast. As we get into Happy Valley Goose Bay, we'll see some snow there as well, 1 degree, and -10 in Labrador City, and a few flurries there for you folks in Lab West. Looking ahead to Monday, Sunday in the overnight, we'll see that system start to move off, but still some snow swirling around Labrador there. And when we move back in to take a closer look, we'll see a mix of sun and cloud for the eastern half of the island for certain, but the temperatures will drop. It'll be a bit cooler, 0 in St. John's and 1 in Gander, Grand Falls, Windsor, -3 though in Marystown, into the minus digits for the southwest coast and the west coast. We could see some snow squalls on the west coast though, and as we head up the northern peninsula into the St. Anthony area, mix of sun and clouds, some more clouds in through the Straits, but we'll still see some snow along the Labrador coast in through Happy Valley Goose Bay, and some flurries for Labrador City. Taking a look at your 5-day now. Looking, not too bad for the East Coast. Sun, all that rain, a mix of sun and cloud, a mix possible of precipitation on Wednesday, some sun and cloud again. Looking really good in Central though, minus Sunday, mix of sun and cloud across the board. For Western Newfoundland, it looks like you will see some flurries or some rain. Wednesday looking like a half decent day for you. Into Eastern Labrador, Saturday looks like you're a nice day with some snow and some flurries possible throughout the rest of your week. And in Western Labrador, the end of your week looks a lot nicer with a mix of sun and cloud. And I would love to show you this photo, our photo of the day of the eagle with his egg. Excellent. That you talked to with Alex Sui a little earlier in our show. And if you have any lovely photos like this wildlife one, you can send it to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, I really hope we get to see some beautiful little eaglets over the spring.
So cute.
So once again, as we count down to the final seconds of our show tonight, we want to wish our wonderful show director, Gary Locke, a very happy retirement. Gary, thank you so much for everything.
And it is not going to be the same here without you, Gary. Thank you so much for everything you do.
And of course, Rod Etheridge as well. He played such a big role in so many journalists' careers, mentoring them. He's going to be really, really missed, as well as Brian Galton. I hope you have a wonderful retirement. We'll miss you all.
All the best. Good night.